Let's be real, winter is brutal on houseplants. Between the dry indoor air, short days and our occasional neglect, our leafy companions have been through it. Now they're looking, well, let's call it rustic chic. Crispy edges, droopy stems and maybe even a few brown spots here or there. Does this sound familiar? Trust me, you're not alone. I've got more than my fair share of plants that could double as set props for a post-apocalyptic movie, and I don't mind admitting it. But there is hope in the air. Yep, spring is here and it's the ultimate comeback season for plants. Those longer days and brighter light are basically nature's caffeine shot for your leafy green friends. If we give them the care they need now, they'll reward us with lush growth, vibrant leaves and maybe even some flowers, although I'm not promising that last one. So what do you need to do to help them bounce back? A few things actually, and if we get it wrong, we could end up with a bigger mess on our hands. So the first one is all about boosting your morale and your plant's health to boot. Decluttering. I know, you don't want to hear it, but if your plant has any dead leaves or stems, now is the time to snip them off to give your little guys and gals a makeover. I am in the habit of prowling my living room and spotting any signs of brown or yellowing leaves and then giving them a trim with a clean pair of snippers. Not only will your plant look instantly better, but it also redirects energy to new growth. Take my poor Calafea for example. She's only been with me a couple of months and she's already spat out her first brown leaf. It's right on top of the plant as well. Looks a right mess. Now, we could say that this leaf is still photosynthesizing for the plant, and to that I say, bruh, please, I want my plants to look pretty, so off it comes. There, much better. How about this baby in the Nepenthes that is just starting to turn the corner? Well, those leaves were from when I first planted it up, and they're browner than, well, you can use your imagination. Anyway, off they come. This alocasia leaf can do one too. And this Anthurium spits out brown leaves aplenty, so I reckon a couple of these can go. There. Admittedly looking a bit silly now, but new leaves will come. They always grow back. As long as there are a couple of leaves left, the plant will do its thing. So you got your tidying up sorted, and your plants are looking halfway respectable again. What a relief. Next, it's time to show them who's boss. Spring is just about the perfect time to channel your inner Leatherface and really hack your plants to pieces. Pruning isn't just about aesthetics, it's a growth booster. Have a look around and see if anything is looking a bit leggy or sparse. It could be time to cut back and let him grow new limbs lower down. It's exactly what I did to this Ficus elastica last year, and she's got 5 new stems on the go now. Look, I'll do the exact same thing to this Ficus ruby. I don't like these plants growing a single stem, you see. They end up looking lanky, so a cut here will branch her out nicely. And we don't need to throw out the top piece. Put this in a jar of water and we've got a free plant. The takeaway from all this is that you will never kill a plant from pruning. A new growth point on the stem will always be activated. I've even done this, and the result a few months later is this. Chances are you've not been paying too much attention to your green babies over the winter because they've not been showing you much love back, and this unfortunately means that they're probably looking like a mucky pup that's just been for a run in the woods on a rainy day. All that dead skin, hair and all the rest floating around your living room and collecting in the crevices of your green babies is a recipe for disaster. Why? Well, a few reasons actually, and first is the most basic. A thick layer of dust will mean that the leaves are getting less light, and we all know how much plants love light. But then we have the more sinister things potentially going on that we should definitely avoid. Our friends Mr. Spidermite, Mr. Fripp and Mr. Mealybug just love dust and whatnot to hide in and have a party, and we really don't want those buggers creating an indoor army in our home. Now there are 2 schools of thought when it comes to cleaning plants, with one that I much prefer. First is to grab a wet cloth and sit there for hours painstakingly wiping every single leaf. Yeah, nor me. The second is to take your green buddy to the shower and give him a good wash behind the ears. I reckon the plant would actually prefer this because it'll be like he's outside enjoying the rain. Your plant will look 10 times better once he's all dried off. If you don't want to get your shower all messy, then just simply take him outside and have a blast. So winter is finally behind us now, but during those cold dark months we most likely had the central heating on. And this means we've had dry air swirling around our home at least 2 times a day. And what does this create? The perfect environment for spider mites. Trust me, they're not as cute as they sound. These tiny invaders can cause big problems if left unchecked. So while you're cleaning and pruning, inspect your plants closely. It's actually a good idea to do this all year, my plant friend. Look under the leaves, along the stems and in the nooks and crannies where the little gits love to hide. Very fine webbing that is confined to small areas is their calling card. Spider mites aren't the only ones, of course. We've got other villains to deal with, such as the thieving thrips and the measly mealybugs. They all want a piece of the plant-based pie. If you do find any of these unwelcome visitors, then don't wait. Act quickly. Last year, I had a bit of a bug issue on this philodendron and I've been spraying him with pesticide like a madman ever since. Now that we've tackled the visible parts of our plants, let's have a butcher's under the hood, the engine room that powers it all. Now, I'll be honest, I don't check the roots on every single plant I have. I mean, that would take weeks, but for those I suspect might have issues, I do take a peek. I pull his trousers down and see if anything is bulging a little bit too much. You see, roots grow pretty much all year round, provided temperatures are above 12 degrees Celsius, so it's perfectly feasible for a plant to become root bound over winter. And having a root bound plant in spring is not a good look. If you see roots circling the bottom of the pot or having a cheeky poke out of the drainage holes, it might be time for an upgrade. Now, there are 3 levels to a root bound plant. Level 1 is something like this, still plenty of room for Mr. Plant to stretch his legs. Level 2 is getting a little more crowded and could do with having his home upgraded so he doesn't become like this. Level 3, and things have been left too long. You'll find that a plant like this drinks his water far too quickly and he shows signs of malnourishment. Leave the poor guy like this over summer and we'll only see puny growth and we won't get to witness him turn into the mighty beast he was destined to become. And when you do sit down to do the deed, there's no real need to break apart the root ball like a savage. A gentle pull here or there is enough. Roots will find a way by themselves. And by the way, seeing something like this doesn't necessarily mean panic stations. It could just be the roots searching for water in the pot, and things aren't as root bound as you might think. This, on the other hand, is probably a problem. And when it comes to repotting, the 2 golden rules are to not upgrade them into a massive bucket-like pot and to choose soil suitable for the job. So if you're repotting a monstera, then a chunky core-based mix with bits of coconut husk will be perfect. A cactus will need something super free draining. Now, if you're lucky enough to have an alocasia or 2 in your collection, or should I say unlucky enough, then chances are you've been pulling your limited hair out over winter, desperately trying to understand why the bleeding thing has been losing all his leaves one by one like a cruel demon put on this earth just to torment you. This is winter dormancy, my plant friend, and happens when you can't give him the light he needs to keep his leaves. In the early days, I made the mistake of thinking this was plant death, so I lobbed a couple in the bin. R.I.P. Black Velvet. Hopefully you've not done the same. If you did hold on to yours, then now is the time you should start to see some movement going on. If not, then consider sticking him under a Sansi grow light. I've got a whole bunch of these in my living room and they really do make a massive difference. You see, this spot here is too low light for any plant, so having a Sansi grow bulb in this floor lamp means I can have yet more plants here. Mrs. Sheffield loves it. If you're in the habit of bunching a load of your green pals up against the window during the winter, then think about moving them back before it's too late. This is especially true if you bought anything new over the winter. I bought these 2 calafeas recently and plonked them in my conservatory. These misters are notorious for growing crispy at the first sight of a sun ray, so I'm on watch out for the next few weeks. So what about watering? Should we go from watering every Saturday to every Wednesday and Saturday now that it's getting lighter and warmer? This is a dangerous game to play, my plant friend, and one that caught me out a few months ago. You see, I got lazy and started watering this guy every Saturday without checking the soil, and the result was a mess of brown leaves a few weeks later. I had to cut them off, and now I've got a sparse looking plant on my hands. I should have whipped out my moisture meter and checked. I would have seen how wet the soil already was. We probably will need to water more often, but it's best not to guess. So, watering schedules are a plant's worst best friend, but feeding schedules are most definitely not. Now don't worry too much about this. Your green buddies won't combust if you're not feeding them regularly. I mean, when I was a noob all those many moons ago, I often forgot to feed mine and there wasn't really a mutiny on my hands. It just meant that I wasn't getting the absolute best out of them. It's light that makes them grow big and muscly after all. I used to try to remember to add houseplant focus to every other watering, but the problem was they're all drying out at different rates and I lost track of when I last fed what. The solution for me was pretty simple, and I kicked myself for not thinking of it sooner. To apply a diluted dose of fertiliser to every watering can I make up, and it's perfect. I never forget, the plant gets fed, and I don't fatten them up with too many calories. And if you do want inspiration, then this is my watering mix. A couple of drops of water conditioner to clear the chlorine and a capful of houseplant focus. That's it. This goes into my 6-litre watering can and away I go. Don't sweat the fertiliser you buy, by the way. Any day suitable for houseplants will be fine. If you're a subscriber to the channel, then you'll know the thing that I'm absolutely not afraid to do when things are going south for a plant despite my best efforts during spring or any other time is to show them the inside of my bin. Sometimes it's just not working, and who wants to have a reminder of that proudly displayed in their home? There's no need to feel guilty here. If you've got a compost pile, then it's all just part of the circle of life. But what if you don't have a compost pile? Well, there is actually something you can do to turn plant leaves into free plant gold that I'll tell you about in the video here. So check it out and I'll see you there.